Welcome to the Emily the Mystic Show. You're about to walk through a portal that leads to all things mystical, magical, spiritual, and supernatural. I'm your host, Emily. I'm a spiritual mentor, an Akashic Records practitioner and teacher, an intuition development coach, and a galactic channeler. If you're an old soul on a self-discovery and healing journey, you are in the right place. We'll be diving in deep to some of my favorite mystical topics, including manifestation, past lives, the spirit world, energy, and so much more. Get ready to embrace your inner mystic and live your most authentic life possible. The portal is now open. Hey, my dear listener, guess what? It's my birthday. Happy birthday to me, Emily the Mystic, aka Emily Logan Lewis, on my 31st birthday. I'm so excited that you're here. This lined up so perfectly because my birthday happens to be literally today on a Wednesday, and this podcast episode comes out on Wednesdays. So I had to take the opportunity to film for you a super special, super fun, super mystical birthday episode. Now, of course, I am filming this sometime in advance. It is February 10th. So we are 9 days away from the big day. Of course, you know, with birthdays, I don't know if you're aware of this, but every single year around that time when you're about to enter into a new trip around the sun, you go through a birthday initiation. You quite literally get initiated into your timeline that you are heading into for that next year of life. And I will say for myself that that birthday initiation really starts a couple days leading up to the big day itself. And then I really feel the energy starting to come in a few days after. So I don't know entirely what that birthday activation means for me yet, what I will be initiated per se into this year. You will be aware of it as I'm going through it. Of course, with podcast episodes, these are the sort of things that you can't necessarily film immediately in the exact moment of time. And I personally didn't really want to be filming an actual podcast episode on my actual birthday. So we're just going to have to roll with the energy of where I am today. And this episode is going to be a little bit off the cuff, a little bit random, a little bit fun. I'm going to be sharing with you some of my own history, my story. As I started this podcast a year ago, I haven't done a ton of updates on kind of my life, my backstory, my history. So if you haven't listened to the first initial episodes of the podcast, hopefully today will help fill in some of those gaps for you. This episode will also be part lessons that I've learned in my 31 years of life, some of the big themes and so forth that have been coming up for me that I feel called to share. And you're going to get to know a mix of Emily the human and Emily the mystic today, which I think will be really fun. When I was sitting with this episode and knew that I wanted to do a special birthday theme, I was kind of thinking to myself, well, I could do 31 lessons that I've learned in my 31 years of life. And that just totally gave me the ick. I was like, that's too much work. I am not here for that. I am here for this podcast to be effortless and easy and fun. And as a sacral authority manifesting generator, for those of you who know human design, I have to do things that light me up, that bring me joy, that bring my sacral essence, that creative energy to play. So again, this episode is going to be just really fun and interesting. And I haven't planned a lot of things to talk about, so we'll see where it takes us. But I know that I want to do a birthday activation for you at the end. When I looked at the clock, it was 3:33. As I was saying that, that's going to give you some juicy energy that I would love to channel through for you today. So I can't wait to get into all of it. So when it comes to how I will be celebrating my birthday this year, for real, I am taking the day off on my actual birthday, which is on a Wednesday this year, obviously. So when you're listening to this, I will be enjoying my day off. I'm going to be going to the spa today. I have this wonderful spa here in
my neighborhood in Philly called Note to Self Wellness. Shout out to them. They're freaking amazing. If you live in Philly, go there. Kelly and Pierre will love you up. Tell them that I sent you. I will be there. I will be getting a facial. I will be getting a massage. I will be enjoying a relaxing afternoon. I will be enjoying a delicious meal out. I will really be enjoying my day. And then what I am super excited about is that one of the things that I've been wanting to manifest this year, which I put on my vision board, and I'm excited to say that successfully have manifested, was I have desperately been wanting to stay in an A-frame cabin. I'm obsessed with A-frame cabins. I have been now for years. And so I really wanted an A-frame cabin. And what's so funny is that I also kind of had this vision in mind of this trip away in the woods in this A-frame for my birthday, but wouldn't it be cool if it also had a hot tub? And I mean, if we're going to have a hot tub, like, we might as well have a sauna to go with it. So magically enough, I was going through Airbnb and trying to find a place to book. And it just so happens that there is this magical A-frame cabin in the Poconos here in Pennsylvania, hour and a half from where I live, that not only is in the woods, but it also has a hot tub and it also has a sauna. So I'm so freaking excited because I will be taking some days off towards the end of the month to go enjoy this little magical place in paradise in the middle of nowhere. I'm going to be going offline for the most part, other than, of course, I'm going to have to be posting to my stories of this little place where we're staying because it's going to be so freaking cute. But I can't believe that I already manifested something on my 2025 bingo card, aka my vision board that I created for myself. And I can't wait for that to become reality very soon. So if you wanted to know, that's how I'm celebrating my birthday. And I cannot wait for the festivities to begin. This is just such a fun month to me because it's like Super Bowl and then it's Valentine's Day, which happens to be the birthday of my dad and my niece. And then it's my birthday. And then I'm going to go stay in the A-frame cabin. And it's just going to be like such a fun, magical little month. And I cannot wait for all of it. Oh my gosh, 31 years. Wow. So I was born on February 19th, 1994. So I was a baby born in the 90s. And what's really interesting is that I was born in the midst of a snowstorm. I was born in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I've stayed in Pennsylvania my whole life, if you haven't gathered that so far. And I was born in the midst of a blizzard. What's really fascinating about my birth story and experience is that I was born 2 weeks late. So I can't remember the specific, my mom's specific due date, but it was like February 8th or 9th. And I literally did not want to come out. I did not want to come into this world. And if you know me in person, you will know that I am 10 minutes late for everything. And I have been that way my whole life since I was a child. Since I was born, I have always been the person who is running late. Thankfully, I have gotten a lot better with my timeliness when running an online business and seeing my clients on time. But just kind of a funny little fact about me that's sort of just the way that my natural clock is. I'm just kind of on my own timeline sometimes. And yeah, so my parents quite literally planned my birthday and to have me via C-section, which I also find really fascinating because I was born on the first day of Pisces season. So if you look at my birth chart, my Pisces sun is quite literally at 0 degrees of Pisces, which for my astrology nerds out there is really kind of crazy to have your sun born at 0 degrees, exactly when it changes signs. And I have had people argue with me over the years, like, no, you're an Aquarius, Emily. You're an Aquarius. February 19th. Isn't that Aquarius? No. I am a Pisces sun through and through. I also happen to have a stellium of planets in Pisces. I think I have 4 planets in Pisces. So got a lot of this mystical Pisces energy. If you're not familiar with the Pisces zodiac, or if that's not an energy that you have a lot of expression of in your own birth chart, it is the mystical sign of the zodiac. I mean, it is the 12th sign. So when we move into Aries season, which is the first sign of the zodiac, we're quite literally moving into the zodiac new year. So Pisces really wraps things up. It is The cherry on top of the cake, it is the embodiment of the intuitive, the sage. It is the embodiment of the witch, in my opinion. It is just such a sign of mysticism. And if you really want to look at it from the perspective of someone who lives this template, this energetic template every day, which I do, there's a dance that you dance between the mystical, the spiritual, and the human and the physical. So I quite literally see myself as a bridge between the mystical realms, the spiritual realms, and the human. And that's so perfectly in accordance to how I'm designed, because if you didn't know this, I am also a Taurus rising in astrology. So my ascendant is in Taurus, I believe 2 degrees of Taurus. And so the energy that I also kind of give off and give out into the world is a practical, down-to-earth, approachable way of looking at mysticism and looking at spirituality. And I find that that's been a big part of my life's work and mission and journey, is to really bring the two together, to bridge the physical with the spiritual, and to make the mystical realms more modern and approachable, and also to encourage us to take all of this higher ascended wisdom and knowledge and apply it to our everyday life. Which is the perfect sort of leeway and segue into what I'm about to say now, which is that I'm filming this episode after the Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl. So, a little bit of backstory about me again. I was born in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I lived in central Pennsylvania up until college. So, if you don't know central Pennsylvania, here are some things to know about it. Where I was born was pretty built up, pretty suburban. However, in general, it tends to be a very rural part of Pennsylvania. So I really came from a small town. And two, if you're curious about how I grew up and my experience, I had a pretty idyllic childhood, if I'm being honest with you. A very idyllic 90s childhood, born to 2 incredible parents. My mom is such an angel on earth. My mom is also the child of entrepreneurs, immigrants from Italy. Well, my grandfather is an immigrant from Italy. Grandmother was American, already here, but they met. Beautiful love story, had a business, worked as entrepreneurs at the market in Harrisburg. My mom, again, child of an Italian immigrant, child of entrepreneurs. My dad is from upstate New York. My dad had a very cool upbringing. His dad worked for the Kodak Corporation. And so my dad is such an artist, studied photography in school, eventually became an attorney. So my parents are just very interesting people, very, very cool people. They definitely dance to the beat of their own drum. I hope they listen to this. I hope they get a kick out of me saying this. My parents just decided separately. Okay, so they were both from the Northeast. My parents decided separately to go to San Francisco on the West Coast to get out of the small towns that they were born in, to travel. So they left home, went to San Francisco, and this would have been the 70s, and met fortuitously, magically, randomly at work in San Francisco. They have this beautiful love story. They decide to elope, okay? My parents eloped in Hawaii, of all places, freaking magical. They come back. They have my sister, who, lucky her, was born in San Francisco. And then my parents decide to come back for family matters to Pennsylvania. And I was born something like 15 years later. So it's so fascinating, because what's another really interesting part of my story and my birth story is that I was born to parents who were in their mid-40s, who kind of had a second sort of timeline, second sort of child timeline, parenting timeline, with having a child late in life totally, kind of unexpected, kind of a surprise baby, but also a total miracle baby, if I do say so myself, because I really came out of, wanted to be born in the 90s, wanted to be born 2 weeks late, wanted to be born during Pisces season, wanted to be born in Pennsylvania. Like, my soul chose all of those things. My family's history was not any of that. So honestly, sometimes I think that I brought them back here to Pennsylvania so that I could be born here on the East Coast. Again, specifically in the 90s, specifically with the genetics of entrepreneurship, with the genetics of my Italian ancestry, with the genetics of, oh my gosh, just so many cool things. Oh, and my grandmother, I have to just put out a word about this too. My grandmother, my mom's mom, who I never met, was so spiritual, would take my mom to see tarot readers on the boardwalk, and would take my mom UFO hunting during the night. She would be like, Michelle, my mom, Michelle, like, let's go check out the skies and let's do some stargazing. And literally, like, my grandma, again, who I've never met, is such a guide for me in spirit now, who I know is supporting me and is helping me and is creating this beautiful path that I'm on. So anyway, that's a little bit about the Emily the Mystic birth story, where I come from, and yeah, some of the really incredible magic that I am very grateful to have been born into, with such ideal, kind of really beautiful circumstances that have helped me create the life that I have now. My high school, so I went to a Catholic high school. My high school had about 600 people per class. So really, 600 people total, 100 people per class. Really, really small school. So everybody knew everything about everybody else. And we didn't really have access to technology. I mean, quite literally, my teachers would use the technology was a projector with laminate. If you're not familiar with this, the way that I learned in school was the teachers would write their notes handwritten on this sort of plastic acetate paper, would put it on a projector screen and would put it on the wall, and then we would hand copy our notes. So we didn't have computers, we didn't have iPhones, we didn't have any of this. And we had one computer lab where we had like a very rudimentary typing class, but that was about it. So we did not really have a lot of access to technology, which, looking back at my grade school and high school years, I really feel a lot of gratitude for that, because it allowed me, through my childhood and through people in my town, and I'm sure you may have had a similar upbringing to this depending on how modern your town was where you lived, really just kind of forced us to be present, forced us to live in the moment. Social media wasn't really a thing until my first year at college. And so anyway, where I'm getting to here is that from my time in central Pennsylvania, I wanted to kind of get out of the small town. I felt like I was a small fish in a big fish in a small pond. I felt like I really just wanted to get out and be free. So I fell in love with a university here in Philadelphia called Temple University. Yes, go Owls. If you know Temple, you will know. I tend to attract a lot of clients from the tri-state area, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, also New York, also the Northeast corridor. So anyway, Temple, if you don't know Temple, it is a very urban school. It is a school in North Philadelphia, which, if you know Philly, is not the nicest part of the city. And I went from this teeny tiny little private high school wearing uniforms every single day with no technology to all of a sudden being in this urban jungle with these really fancy skyscraper buildings and needing to bring a laptop with me to class and like all of this fancy stuff that I wasn't used to. And it was a little bit of a culture shock, but a good culture shock, because it really forced me to kind of come into my own, to find my independence, to learn more about me, to learn more about who I am, and to start meeting new people and meeting things outside of the bubble that I really grew up in. And I say all of this, because what I'm leading to is that I really found home here in Philadelphia. Decided to stay, of course. So I graduated from Temple and in 2016 with a degree in business and marketing. And I decided to stay here in Philadelphia and really have found quite a love for this city, quite a home here. And I'm so excited to say, listening to this podcast episode recording this podcast episode, my goodness, that the Eagles just won the Super Bowl last night, coming and moving to Philadelphia now, however long it's been, like over 10 years. I really feel such a community here and such a shared cultural experience with, oh my gosh, the Eagles fandom is unlike anything else out there. There is such a community experience, a shared community, a shared understanding that comes from being here, that comes from living in this city, that comes from the experience of your neighbors wearing Eagles gear, the people in the city who may not, Philly has a reputation for not necessarily being the friendliest city in the world. The city is a place that tends to chew people up and spit people out if your energy doesn't necessarily mesh well with it. It's such an interesting place to live. The energy here in general is quite dense. So I personally have found it to be such a great place for me, for my growth, because it's been really grounding for me. I am also, for those of you who are familiar with astrocartography, I happen to be right near my Neptune line, living here in Philadelphia. So this interesting mix of my spiritual journey, my spiritual gifts coming online with living here in this very energetically dense, urban, massive city with not a lot of access to nature or the outdoors or any of that, has just been such a fascinating experience. And there is a grit here that has also been so helpful for me with being an entrepreneur that I can't even put into words. There is just a little bit of an edge to the city that has also helped me really grind into my career as an entrepreneur and really feel this sort of push and urge to create and to find success and to hustle, and not that hustle culture is a good thing, but at least for me to get to where I am now, this sort of Temple University grit and endurance and fighting spirit that I witnessed and that I experienced and that I, really grew to love and to know, and then continuing to stay here in the city and getting totally wrapped up in Eagles culture and football fandom. Wow, what a really interesting juxtaposition between the physical and the spiritual. And my spiritual journey really coming online again for me during the midst of the pandemic. So I share all of this with you on the day after an Eagles victory, when I am quite tired from walking to Broad Street at midnight and celebrating with my fellow Philadelphians, everyone wearing their green and seeing fireworks quite literally being shot off feet away from me in the street, and pure pandemonium and almost pure anarchy, but in the most joyful, celebratory, incredible way. The community and the magic of that experience really helps me see this beautiful balance between the physical and the spiritual. And one thing that I'm really wanting to embody and to share with you and to encourage you to find in your own life is this beautiful balance of embodied physical and spiritual, where you get to be you. So I get to be Emily, but I also get to be Emily the Mystic. So I get to be the Emily who enjoys Philadelphia sports, who enjoys watching football, who enjoys going to a Philadelphia Phillies baseball game, who enjoys going wine tasting or checking out the latest microbrewery in my city, and who also gets to go to the Philadelphia Art Museum and who gets to go to the Jersey Shore during the summer and spend time at the beach, that I get to do all of these like fun, shared cultural things that bring me joy, that bring the city joy. And I also get to travel, astral travel to other realms. I also get to work with high dimensional beings. I get to channel the Arcturians and the Pleiadians and the Andromedans. I get to teach about galactic history. I get to quite literally work with the higher guides in the Akashic realm and teach about it and have these really mystical, crazy spiritual synchronicities and experiences alongside of it. And I say all of this because if you found me, if you found my work, one of my biggest kind of learnings and takeaways and things that I felt called to share with you today is a reminder that all of it is spiritual and all of it is necessary and all of it is important. So those fun parts of you, the things that you like to do on the weekends, the things that you like to do perhaps in your time offline, the books that you read, the music that you listen to, the activities that you like to do, all of that is equally as important as your spiritual nature, as the ascended wisdom and knowledge, as the magical psychic experiences. It's all important and it all matters. And I share that with you too, because I think I've been seeing a lot of accounts out there on social media who kind of want to ascend the physical realm and who want to kind of live in this paradigm of conspiracy and it comes from honestly a very paranoia, fear-based approach where we are afraid of the people and the things that exist in our matrixed reality. We are afraid of the things happening on the world stage, like the Super Bowl or the Grammys or, the Oscars. We kind of have this natural skepticism and cynicism towards these big events. And then we kind of look down on them a little bit. And we put ourselves on a spiritual pedestal and see ourselves as, I don't listen to top 40 music, so therefore I'm a spiritual guru. And, I would never in a million years give away my consciousness to watching the Super Bowl because I'm this spiritually enlightened being and I'm going to be just channeling and, I'm just going to be eating vegan food and like living in my little spiritual corner in my home. No. I think that it's so important to find a balance between all parts of ourselves here. And I find that this balance is so important in all aspects of life. So with the physical and the spiritual, I think it's so important that you maintain the things that brought you joy before your spiritual journey, and that you also continue to do the things in your spiritual journey that help you maintain a high vibration. So it's important to have the football revelry, and then it's also important to do an energy cleanse because you know that you picked up energy from other people when you were having a good time, right? So I think this balance that I'm speaking about is so important, and with people out there in the spiritual community who are kind of trying to turn you away from the everyday joys of being human, that I think it's best that you maintain your distance from those people. And that you find your corner of the spiritual world, whether that's with me or with someone else who's talking about things in a very similar way, that you get to do both. You get to be you and you get to be the mystical version of you. Like you get to be mystical and magical and you also get to be really freaking human. And that's where the party's at. That's where the magic is at, is when you get to do both. And I have to interrupt this podcast episode to tell you about a product that I am absolutely obsessed with and have been loving so much. And that is Elix Cycle Balance. This incredible women's hormonal health supplement that was created on the foundation of Chinese medicine helps you balance your hormones so that you can feel better every single day of your cycle For me, this incredible supplement helped me on my journey getting off of hormonal birth control and has helped me feel so good. I have so much energy. I have very limited physical symptoms, especially during my cycle. And I just feel good. So I cannot recommend this stuff to you enough. I am not a huge supplement person. I don't take a ton of supplements. So for me, it's just my daily multivitamin and this and some elderberry that I take for immune support, and that's it. And this has really changed the game for me. If you want to give it a try, go ahead, check out the link in the show notes and use code 15EmilyL for 15% off. So I find that moderation and that balance is helpful for everything in life. For me, that also incorporates my entrepreneurship journey. So I'm also coming to you today after how many years now? I have to count. Almost 5 years as a full-time entrepreneur. That's freaking wild. I am sitting in front of you as a 5-year veteran of the entrepreneurship journey, also with a lot of wisdom and knowledge to say on that topic as well. And where do I want to begin with that? Well, what I have learned, especially as I enter into my 31st year, is that life is really what you make of it. And I know we talk a lot here in the spiritual space around escaping the matrix and escaping kind of the systems and the programs that our society has set up. When I talk about escaping the matrix, to me, I don't talk about taking that matrix pill and all of a sudden, my life completely changes. It's a subtle day-to-day process of learning to take your power back and make your life what you want it to be. By that, I mean these systems and programs that society has us led to believe that we have to participate in, things like we have to have a really traditional job, or we have to live our life in a very traditional way. We have to do things in a certain order. We have to we're supposed to go to school and then we get the job and then we meet the partner and then we get married and then we have kids. And if that's been your journey, then that's wonderful. But also, it doesn't need to be everybody's journey. And you get to choose the journey that you want to be on. So I could have told you 5 years ago, before I became a full-time entrepreneur, I felt so much constriction and restriction around my job. I felt to myself, oh my God, I have to stay in this job because I need the health insurance and I have to contribute to the 401k and I have to have this consistent income to pay my bills and blah, blah, blah. And I had so much fear around all of that. And now looking back, I realized how much I was keeping myself caught in a prison of my own making. And that is one of the big things that I'm really working through now, and that I feel like I'm being initiated into now in my 31st year of life, is anytime I find that I'm making a prison of my own creation, even as a business owner, even as an entrepreneur, there's always a way for me to recreate my life and recreate my schedule and recreate my day-to-day beingness and my day-to-day exploration. So with that being said, if you feel like you are in a prison of your own making, meaning you feel like you are stuck in the job or you are stuck in the day-to-day routine and I have to be able to pay the bills and I have to be able to have health insurance, and you find yourself just kind of stuck in this rigor, I want you to really start questioning that this year. Where can I see things differently? And yes, there are things we have to do. We have to pay the bills, but are there other ways that I can pay the bills? Am I really stuck in this corporate job? Am I really stuck in this relationship? Am I really stuck in this location? Or is this just a constraint that I'm putting around myself with my time and my energy? And am I just really creating this life around myself that is really uncomfortable and really hard? And if yes, can I start to just kind of see it from a higher perspective and see that things are going to be okay if I don't do it the same way I've always done it? If I could go back 5 years from now and tell corporate Emily anything, it would be that you are not actually stuck in the job. That you can leave, you can quit your job anytime, any day, and you can figure it out. You will figure it out. You have to trust yourself. You have to be able to take risks. You have to be open to the experience. But when you're kind of working with bending your reality in this way, you start to see that these paradigms, these structures, these systems that we feel forced to follow in our society just don't need to hold you back anymore. What if you could just monetize a skill that you have? What if you were really, really good at budgeting and really, really good at finances? And what if you could quit your corporate job and start your own small business doing financing and budgeting for other people? Like, what if you could, if you were an illustrator, what if you could start offering some really cool form of illustration that captures soul portraits? And so you could quit your job as a graphic designer and start offering these like soul portraits for people. So I feel that we're at such a pivotal time in history where we're finally starting to see that these structures that society holds us in, we have so much more power and ability and technology and capacity to out-create the things that are holding us down and that are holding us back. And can we find a way to live a life that is good for you? For me personally, I was able to enjoy the Super Bowl revelry last night, and then I got to sleep in today because I already decided for myself that I wasn't going to see clients on Monday. I don't see clients on Monday typically. And so I get to have a schedule today that feels really good and that feels gentle and that allows for flexibility and that allows for creativity. And so I can sit down and record a podcast episode like this. But I had to build myself into a new structure, a new paradigm that worked for me. And I'm still finding ways of being able to build my own structure, my own paradigm, my own day-to-day schedule in ways that feel really good for me, in ways that feel epically expansive for me. So one thing, now that I've learned how to really exchange as a business owner time for money and really learned how to monetize my skill set of being a psychic and a spiritual teacher, now I eventually want to grow into a business model where I have more time and have more of a passive income business model where I can share my wisdom and knowledge, but not be tied down so much to Zoom or client calls or things like that. So I'm always finding and seeing a new paradigm that I get to grow into for myself. But my whole point in sharing this with you is that your paradigm, your matrix that you are in, that you are keeping yourself in. I know you probably think, oh, well, society and all of these different structures that I have to uphold to. You're still keeping yourself in it. You could quit your job tomorrow, truly. I'm not encouraging you to do that, but I'm just encouraging you to think outside the box a little bit. What if I took my power back? And what if I worked on creating a life for me that felt really good, that felt really expansive? And you have to take the daily step-by-step process in order to be able to do that. So my next thing that I wanted to talk about while talking and speaking to an entrepreneurship journey is that it's not going to happen overnight. So we have to start with the vision. We have to start with okay, I see that the structure that I'm living in today isn't working for me. I've come to the awareness that it's not working. That's the first step, the awareness. Okay, this isn't working. Now, my next step is, okay, what would my ideal day-to-day life and circumstance look like? In my dream reality, what would that look like? Okay, how can I be open to a way to create an income for myself, to create a day-to-day schedule for myself, a day-to-day routine for myself that is going to feel really good and that's going to feel really expansive and that's going to feel really optimal for me and for my energy. So knowing yourself and knowing what you would really enjoy and knowing what your day-to-day life would look like is where all of this first begins. And then the key part is starting to take those steps a little bit at a time every single day. So for me personally, I knew at the beginning of 2020, before the pandemic even happened, I knew that I wanted to build an online business. So what did I do? I invested in a business coach. And from there, I took time out of my every single day to work towards that goal and that vision of being an online business coach, because I knew that that was my ticket to build myself something new that was not what I had in the past, which was my corporate 9-to-5 job. You didn't know I used to work in corporate retail, and I had a really exhausting schedule where I would commute to New York City twice a week from here in Philadelphia. I would get up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym. I would then go to work at between 8:30 and 9. I would arrive at work at 9 o'clock. I would get to my desk. I would work all day. I would leave at 6. I would get home. And guess what? I would freaking build my online business from 7 p.m. until midnight. And that's what I had to do at the beginning in order to get myself to where I am now. So sometimes I find with breaking yourself out of your matrix that you feel stuck in, there sometimes needs to be an increased amount of tension in the matrix before you can glass ceiling yourself out of it and blast yourself into the next level. Something needs to give a little bit in order for you to actually create the new thing. So when I would get home from work and build my online business, I was also studying spiritual things. I was also working with a mediumship teacher. I eventually started offering spiritual readings that I would do. So when the pandemic hit, then I started working from home, which, bless us all, gave me more time to focus on these things. And I started doing spiritual readings at 8 a.m. before my corporate job, and then at 6 p.m. when my day was over, when my day ended. So that consistent effort was what helped me create a business model where I could see clients in exchange for money, exchange for my time. And I use social media as my advertising tool, as my marketing tool, in order to build and create an audience of people that I could sell my services to. And that's really where it all began. Me, Emily, corporate job with a business degree, with not a lot of real life entrepreneurship experience, but knowing that I needed to take the time that I had to really get going on creating what I knew was going to get me to where I needed to go. I say this from a very down to earth 3D lens because of two perspectives. Number one, at the time, I was also working with a spiritual teacher who led me to believe in this fantastical, energetic concept of just visualizing and dreaming my way to a business. And that really disconnected me from reality because I saw if I'm just dreaming about it all of the time, then it's just going to come to me. And then from the other end of the perspective was that I also knew that I needed to do the work and that I knew that I needed to take the action necessary in order to create the dream that I knew that I wanted to create. I say this because I know it can look on paper to someone just looking at my social media and seeing the following that I've gained and seeing all of the things that I'm working on creating all of the time. I know you can see that and think to yourself, oh my gosh, Emily just had overnight success and it's just been really easy for Emily because blah, 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 blah. And I too am guilty of looking at other people and seeing what they're working on and seeing what they're doing and seeing what they're creating. And then I realized to myself, that's their journey. That's not my journey. So what's been really important for me is to kind of to work through being in this identity of being an entrepreneur, of being a business owner. And being an entrepreneur requires risk. it requires consistency. It requires effort. It requires action. It requires time. Again, at least until you can break yourself out of that glass ceiling of the kind of matrixed reality that you're in right now, there's going to need to be some energetic efforting on your part that's going to help push you into that next plane, into that next level. And that's really, I think, that concept that we see in the spiritual space of quantum leaping, where my previous spiritual teacher was teaching us that you could just sort of dream about it and it would happen, versus what it really is, which is really like actually doing the thing and actually taking the leap and actually going for it and actually being consistent towards it. That's really where you're going to find your result. And that's really where you're going to start to find success. But you have to stay consistent with it. You know, you're speaking here with somebody who has invested tens of thousands of dollars into growth, as well as have been consistent for 5 years. I don't think I've gone offline or been invisible at all in 5 years. I have really pushed myself to be present here, to be present, to show up, to do the thing, because I'm doing this for me. And I'm also doing it from a point of view of also being of service, because I know the way that I'm built is that, and the reason why I felt so caught up in my corporate job was I knew I was there to be of service to my boss and to my coworkers and to the product that I was creating in the product-based corporate job that I had. I needed to show up for that. And now I know that I need to show up for my customers and my clients, and I also need to show up for me. So when it comes to entrepreneurship, if you're feeling called to this journey, which not everyone is going to be, that you're really going to need to take the action necessary to get yourself there. But that's a really beautiful, really equal balance of both the energy, because I do think my spiritual teacher was right in a lot of ways. There is visualization involved, but also there needs to be some consistent effort in order to help get yourself there. And I find too that being an entrepreneur also has some of its own, and this is again something I'm working on, are some of the structures that I contain myself in as well, where being an entrepreneur means that my schedule is, in the way that I've built it for myself, I work from 12 to 8 at night. So that means that I can't often go out for dinner with people. I can't often get happy hour with friends. I can't often just escape to go do something else. And then on the weekends, it means that I just want to be fully tuned out and unplugged and relaxing. So I sometimes have a really hard time with creating space for the fun social events and the, connection with people. And that's just, again, that's sort of the reality of the situation of being an entrepreneur, is that it is flexible, but there are also things that you really have to, there are also ways that you really have to show up as a business owner. So it's not totally, there's also, you have to find a balance. It's all about that balance. And sometimes that means planning ahead. And sometimes that means I'm not going to be able to see you for a couple months. And sometimes that means don't take it personally. It's just Emily trying to do her thing, trying to balance as much as she possibly can, but also knowing that I'm human too. And that I also don't always have the capacity and the space, above and beyond what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. So anyway, with that being said, that was a long spiel about entrepreneurship for my spiritual entrepreneurs out there, that I don't want you to think this journey that I have been on has been some sugar-coated, like, let's sit and manifest all day long with our crystals and it's just going to appear sort of situation. That it comes from putting in the consistency and putting it out there and showing up even on the days when you are tired, and even on the days when you feel like you don't want to do it, you're still showing up in some capacity. And then on a really magical end of the spectrum, you also get to really create things any way that you want to. When you start living your life from this perspective, and again, this is where we're talking about sort of being in those higher dimensions of consciousness, when we're in the fifth dimension and beyond, we're starting to really see that we have limitless potential for creatorship. So even though I have this entrepreneurship schedule of 12 to 8 every day, I know that I also can work and I can create into a lifestyle where I have more time back, where I get to do more travel, where I get to do things more flexibly, where I get to make income in exchange for creating something, but that doesn't need to be exchanging time for money in the way that I've built my business so far. So it's always a growth journey. It's always an expansion journey. And there are always new ways of looking at things, but you don't need to be held back by fear, and you don't need to be held back by limitations and paradigms that you find that you're being put into. Another big one for me is because I've chosen such a timeline of entrepreneurship and success and business success, it also means that I haven't focused on manifesting an expensive home, manifesting a family, getting pregnant and having children, buying the expensive car. I've been focusing more on building my business from my beautiful apartment here in Philly, spending the extra income that I have on travel, spending the extra income that I have on creative outlets and things that bring me joy, and going out for delicious meals and enjoying experiences and seeing live music and all of these things that I'm not forcing myself into, I think, this early 30s journey that so many people are in right now of buying the home and having the family and getting married. I'll get there. I'll get there when I get there. And I'm so excited for when that time comes for me. But I also know that I've been on a bit of a different timeline. And so I also share this with you for you to know that you're here to create your own experience, your own life, your own beautiful reality around you. And you don't need to let some of these expectations of other people or these societal expectations to hold you back. What's important are your expectations and what you expect from yourself and what you expect from your life. It's your life. You get to do whatever the heck you want with it. And I'm so excited that I get to sit here in front of you on my 31st birthday and say that life is truly whatever you make out of it. And if you feel that anything specifically is holding you back, I would challenge you to think about it differently. I would challenge you to ask yourself the question, is this really something that is outside of my control that's holding me back? Or can I do something about it? Can I think differently? Can I take different steps? Can I leave the job tomorrow and start working on the business? Can I start trusting in my capacity to create something really amazing? Can I start working on that vision that I've always had? Can I start even just dreaming about what's possible for me? You may not even know what your vision is yet, and that's okay. But can you realize that whatever you're holding yourself in, it's not real. It's an old paradigm. And so I find too that with the journey that I'm on and being able to see anything is possible for me, I can create anything that I want to create. I want you to start thinking more magically that what if I am here to bring those higher dimensional energies into the space and place where I know I am called to be. So not everybody is here to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody is here to have an entrepreneurship journey or to be a spiritual entrepreneur. So many people are here to bring those higher dimensional energies into the work that they're already doing, into the career path that you're already in, into another way of being of service, into your home, into your family, into your culture, into your background, that you're here to be a new paradigm leader for whatever the place and space is that you are in or that you feel called to be in. So another way to think about this is, if I am out creating my own matrix that I put myself in, how can I see this higher perspective, this ascended wisdom and knowledge that wants to come through me? And how can I apply that to a life of being of service where I get to bridge the gap between the physical and the spiritual and bring my higher dimensional wisdom into the place and space that I'm in? Maybe for you, that's research. Maybe for you, that's at the university level. Maybe that's writing a book. Maybe that's being a nurse. Maybe that is in some sort of medicine. Maybe that is as a therapist. Maybe that's as a counselor. Maybe that's as an artist. Maybe that's as a musician. Maybe that's as a lawyer. Maybe that's whatever place you find yourself in. What if you were here to bridge the gap between the physical and the spiritual and operate from that place? And maybe that also means starting a new career path. So maybe that is something entrepreneurial, or maybe that's creating quite literally a new position for yourself, a new career for yourself, a new identity for yourself, where you start seeing yourself as someone who has this higher enlightened wisdom and knowledge to share, because you do. You wouldn't have it if you wouldn't be listening to this podcast if you didn't have that. So it's up to you to find how you are going to be inspiring others through your unique lens, through your unique higher dimensional wisdom and knowledge that you are here to share. And the next thing that I have to say about that is that this journey takes a lot of trust. So this is something, as I'm entering into my 31st year, that I really have found myself growing into, expanding into, working with new levels of it. I feel like it's kind of become a game for me at this point. And that is the game of divine trust. So if you've listened to my last couple of podcast episodes, you will know that I've been talking about something called the divine trinity of trust, which is trust in self, trust in others, and trust in the divine, which includes spirit guides, the universe, God's source, as well as, any mystical tools and wisdom that you modalities that you wish to work with. So when you have this full paradigm of divine trust, self, other, divine, you quite literally can lean into this experience and let the rest go. One of the big things that I've been kind of playing with and thinking about and existentializing on, if you want to call it that, is the concept of fate versus free will. How much free will do we really have, and how much of this is destined? Now, I know that can kind of be a crazy concept to think about at this point in the episode, but I want to say to you that with everything I've said so far around kind of breaking yourself out of your own matrix, breaking yourself out of your own paradigm, what I'm also really referring to is how can you come to the awareness that you were designed and crafted so expertly by our God, our source. You were and by yourself, your higher self. You chose this. You chose this special lifetime. You chose a lot of the experiences that you knew that you were going to have. Now, don't twist my words here. I'm not trying to tell you that you chose the trauma that you've been through in your life, or some of the potential situations of abuse or situations of anything that's kept you sort of enslaved or held back in this lifetime. I'm not saying that. But you did choose your blueprint. You did choose who you wanted to be. You did choose your body. You did choose how you wanted to express yourself. You did choose your family of origin. You did choose your hometown where you grew up in. We come into this with a lot of higher expanded wisdom and knowledge. We come into this with a whole plan for our soul's path. And with that being said, a lot of things in this lifetime are also destined and fated for you, which means that if you feel like you are holding yourself in a matrix where you are stuck with a glass ceiling, the other side of that glass ceiling is exactly what you decided to create for yourself in this lifetime. It is destined. It is fated. It has been decided by you and your higher self. Now, what I also want you to consider is that you were divinely crafted and created for this. So you have everything within you. It just needs to be activated and expanded into in this lifetime. And you will get out of that glass ceiling. You will get out of the matrix that you feel like you're in. And you will get to where you want to be. You will bridge that gap between the physical and the spiritual in your own unique way. So I want you to know that you are already on the path. You're already doing it. And where the divine trust concept comes into play is learning how to trust that this lifetime has been destined and fated for you to create whatever it is that you came here to create, whatever your mission is. You came here to do that thing. So truly, you can't go wrong. Truly, if you've reached this level of consciousness that has caused you to find this podcast, you cannot go wrong. You sitting in front of me here today, you cannot go wrong. You were designed for something really special and magical and unique, and you have the wisdom and ability and creatorship to do it. And it may be uncomfortable. There may be risk involved. There may be work involved. There may be effort. There may be late hours. There may be long nights. There may be lack of sleep. There may be some of these things that make us uncomfortable, because the comfort zone is when you are living in an energy that feels good, but it's not your expanded highest potential that you're growing into. So what we want to do is break ourselves out of the comfort zone, which is the matrix that you put yourself in for bringing it all together, and help you see that there is a life beyond that, above and beyond that, a vision above and beyond that. And where the divine trust trinity comes in is that the more that we trust in ourselves, that we divined this quite literally for our highest path and expanded potential. And the more that we trust that others were chosen to help you get there, and were chosen to give you the lessons and learnings and experiences and wisdom and knowledge that you needed, to teach you the things, to activate you to the things, to help facilitate the awarenesses and the exchange of things. The exchange of energy is all sorts of ways that you may have collaborated and connected in relationship to others. And also, if you trust in your divine source to hold the space for you while working with your guides who can help you understand the path that you're on, that's a really incredible place to be, because it helps you break through that glass ceiling a lot easier. It helps you see, okay, maybe I am making my life harder for myself than I need it to be because I am in resistance to the path. I'm resisting the path that I know that I need to be on by maybe choosing relationships that aren't good for you, or staying in a job a little bit past your end date, or trying to squeeze the energy out of an old connection, an old friendship, an old therapist, an old relationship that's just not good for you anymore. And how can you see that ending, that letting go, that releasing as being a way to lighten yourself up to help you move through that glass ceiling a heck of a lot easier? Another way that I like to look at this is, instead of seeing this as the matrix, taking the red pill versus the blue pill, and taking the pill that causes you to see things differently and causes you to be on a different timeline, I actually want you instead to look at it as that you're taking a time to release capsule. You are literally taking a time to release capsule for your most expansive life right now. You are. It's happening. It's already happening. This episode is truly the activation. Listening to this has already been expanding you into that limitless potential and breaking you, getting you ready to break out of that glass ceiling. So the capsule is already working. The energy is already working. But the timing, that divine timing component, just like a timed release medication, the medication gets released at certain times of the day when your body needs it. Your timed release limitless path gets released at certain times when you need it. So those experiences that you have that feel quite literally synchronistic, destined, fated, Those are all part of the timed release capsule that you are taking. That's going to help you break out of the glass ceiling, the matrix of your own paradigm, of your comfort zone paradigm. And once we find ourselves coming out of that energy, we realize that anything that we desire is truly available for us. We also have to co-create it. We also have to do the work necessary. For me, that was a lot of late nights building a business. And even now, that's a lot of time and energy involved. So these things don't just happen magically overnight. They don't. And I wish I could sit here in front of you and tell you that they do. But that fated, destined concept also requires some energetic efforting on your part in order to make it happen. Because it will happen. But you need to follow your intuition and where you feel guided to go. Because I guarantee you, listening to this, you already know where you want to be. You may not know what it is that you're going to be creating that's going to help you get there, but you know where you want to be. So now it's time to start opening up to you, your blueprint, how you were designed, what makes you tick, what brings you joy, following that, because that is going to lead you to where you want to go. So with that being said, I want to do a portal activation with you where we're going to be opening a portal that's going to lead you to your highest, most expanded, most limitless potential energetic outcome that's going to help you break out of your own glass ceiling that you feel like you're in right now. And I'm sharing this with you on this beautiful 31st trip around the sun to help you find whatever it is that's going to bring you limitless joy, while also bridging the gap between the physical and the spiritual and bringing down to earth the magic and the wisdom, the otherworldly, higher dimensional gifts that you have, bringing those in now and helping open up a doorway and a pathway towards the life for you that's going to be joyful, that's going to bring expansion, that's going to bring cool opportunities and money and abundance and all of the things. So I want you to take a moment now to close your eyes and to drop into your body, into this moment. On your next inhale, I want you to take a deep breath in for me, breathing in deeply into your nose. Exhaling out now, out through your mouth. Breathing in deeply in through your nose. Exhaling out, out through your mouth. One more time, breathing in deeply in through your nose. Exhaling out now, out. I want you to begin to imagine in your mind's eye. I want you to bring to mind a visual representation of what your ideal day-to-day life would look like. And I want you to start at the beginning of that day. I want you to imagine yourself waking up in the bed, in the room, where you would be waking up in your most expanded potential, where you would feel free, where you would feel outside of the realm, the constraints that you feel like you're in now. I want you to imagine yourself there. That you're waking up for a day now. You imagine yourself getting out of bed, perhaps greeting anyone that's also in the room with you. Any pets or animals, kids, anyone in your life that you're starting the day with. And I want you to imagine yourself now starting your morning as if you were starting the day. What would you be doing first thing in the morning? Do you recognize the home that you're in? Are you somewhere new? Are you inside or outside? I want you to imagine yourself going through a morning, day in the life of you, your most ideal, most fun, most playful timeline. seeing who you're with, imagining yourself there, just noticing what it feels like to be here. And I want you to imagine now that the day begins to transition as you move into the afternoon. And what are you doing with your day this beautiful afternoon? Are you inside or outside? Are you creating, working on something? Are you taking care of yourself? Just imagining this reality now. Are you going places? Are you with people that you love? And I now want you to imagine that your afternoon begins to transition into evening. As your day begins to come to an end, what are you doing at night? Are you at home? Are you going somewhere? Are you with someone? I want you to imagine yourself at the end of this beautiful day. Maybe seeing yourself have a meal, doing an activity that you love. Just really being in the energy of this and how it feels like to be here. And maybe this is a new vision. Maybe this is something you've not experienced yet. And now as the day is completing, you find yourself getting back into bed again. The day is ending. Time to sleep. We've quite literally tapped into a future potential timeline. So as this vision starts to fade away, I want you to begin to find yourself back in your body. I want you to give yourself a nice deep breath. And what we're going to do now is, if you liked this timeline and if you would like this to be your reality, we're going to do an Akashic Records activation to help activate you into that energy. So if I have your permission to open your Akashic Records for the purpose only of doing this activation, the records will be closed at the end. All I need you to do is say yes in your mind right now. Beautiful. And as your Akashic Records begin to open and as your body adjusts to this higher vibration, you will now be shown that a portal is being opened that is going to take you into this new timeline. And I want you to look at that portal, really look at it, because your portal is going to have a shape. It is going to have a color or multiple colors. Is it glittering? Is it sparkling? Is it tall? Is it wide? And how does the energy feel of this portal before you step into it? This portal leads to your highest potential expansion this year and beyond, in accordance with what you saw in your vision. So when you're ready, I'm going to have you take a deep breath in, breathing in through your nose, out through your mouth, and without any fear, I want you to jump headfirst into that portal. Jump! There you go, jumping into that portal. I want you to see yourself floating through that tunnel of time, space, and energy as the Akashic Records give you now an activation that's going to help you let go of anything not in accordance with that future timeline and to help you anchor into the energetic frame needed in order to create the life that you want for yourself. And as you float through that portal, now you're going to come out on the other side. And what's really interesting is you're going to find yourself landing back in your body now in this present moment. But before you open your eyes, I want you to tune into, what do I need to do next in order to make this possible? What do I need to do next in order to make this possible? What's your next baby step? And now you know what you need to do. I'm going to take a final deep breath in. We set the intention to activate your intuition and awareness to know exactly what you need to do next as you go step by step into the path of this portal and into the future of your dreams and reality now. And it is done. We're going to set the intention to close your Akashic records, to integrate and activate you to this expanded energy. And now as you begin to open your eyes, wake up, wake up, wake up, come back into this present moment. You're here with me now. Congratulations. You've just been initiated into the portal connected to your most expanded timeline. And I feel so grateful that I get to gift this to you today here on my birthday. Thank you for listening to this magical episode. It's been so much fun for me. Such a fun year, so much growth, so much opportunity, so much still to talk about. So I cannot wait to see you in the next episode. And if you feel ready to go on a journey, similar to what has been coming through on this episode today, if you know that you are ready for that life, if you know that you are ready to manifest that reality outside of the glass ceiling that you are putting on yourself, and you know that you are ready for more and to create more and to expand into more, but you feel like something continues to hold you back, you still feel stuck in resistance, you still cannot see above the trees of the matrix that you're currently living in right now, then please come join my new manifestation mentorship, Divine Trust. It is an 8-week group experience where we are going to be working on all 3 aspects of the pyramid: divine trust and self, other, and in the divine. And we'll be doing a series of channeled work, energetic activations, as well as real exercises, real practical wisdom, real stuff that is going to help get you to where you need to go. So I would love to see you there. The information for that mentorship will be in the show notes. We're going to be starting in March. So I will see you in just a few weeks for that. And until then, my dear listener, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for your birthday wishes. I am so grateful to spend my special day with you. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. The portal is now closed.